O'Reilly. The next time you need auto parts and accessories, trust the parts professionals at the 30 Raleigh-Durham O'Reilly Auto Parts stores. Our professional parts people know what it takes to get the job done right. Professionals have counted on O'Reilly Auto Parts for decades. Now you can too. Professional parts people, O'Reilly Auto Parts. Better parts, better prices every day. O'Reilly Auto Parts.
Blog Talk Radio.
Hey, you are now tuned in to 110 Sports Talk. I go by the name Lynn Knight. Hey,
it's the best.
Running through the competition, no competition. You don't believe it's time to stop. Sit back and listen. We bringing you the stats, all the breaking news and facts. Want the latest on the biggest trade? Well, this is where it's at. We don't talk it, boy, we live it. Got that all around coverage. From track and field, you name a field, we got it all covered. No diss to Derrick Rose, but we don't talk that bull. Just wait till he get healthy, better watch out for them bulls. Slide over the hockey, shout out to the Kings. Salute to LeBron James, y'all both got y'all rings. Looking for the real, you tune into the best. The sportologist and Mr. CJ Sports is up next.
I want to welcome everybody to the 110 Nation Sports Show. I am your host, Mr. CJ Sports. You can follow me at CJ Sports 1. You can follow the 110 Nation at 110 Nation. Glad to be here on this wonderful Monday night, broadcasting simultaneously on Spreaker and Blog Talk for the first time this 2015 season. We attempted to do this a couple times back in the day. Of course, we had the Spreecast and the Blog Talk going at the same time, so I decided let's go ahead and hook up the Spreaker, and so we could bring both platforms together, bring our fan base with the Mr. CJ Sports Uninterrupted, usually exclusively on the Spreaker platform. We've started to grow a fan base over there, and they've not been able to catch the shows live. I've been downloading the shows over there, so I wanted to make it an opportunity that everybody can catch the show live. Don't forget, you also, if you missed the show, or you want to go back and catch previous shows, or maybe you're going to be out and about and can't catch the show live, we are also on iTunes, SoundCloud, Stitcher, and you can also listen in while you're out by calling 718-664-9861. If you're listening to the Spreaker edition, you can call into that number as well. That is our BTR number, and but you'll still be able to be heard on the Spreaker side. It's one of the things that we put into full effect as of tonight. So good to know. Got you. Almost simultaneous. I guess the timing is just slightly off. Also, with that note, Miss Lee is, when we get our guest on, also let me know the balance. I was working with the balance to make sure that we were balanced on both sides, BTR and Spreaker, with the call-in. So when we get to that point, we got Steve Billmeyer joining us at 10 o'clock tonight to talk NASCAR, as we had Richmond this last weekend. We got the Chase coming up, starting next weekend in Chicagoland. We're going to talk about that and break down our thoughts and opinions on that. Also, we got Patrick Taylor from Line Blowers coming on at 10:30 to talk NFL as we work on wrapping up Week 1. Right now, we got the Philadelphia Eagles in Atlanta. Atlanta's up 20-10. Very impressive first half for the Atlanta Falcons, especially their defense, only allowing like 3 points going into the half. We also got the Minnesota Vikings and the San Francisco 49ers yet to play tonight as well. So looking forward to having Patrick Taylor on tonight. I know he's got a handful of topics that we're looking forward to getting into with him as well. Looking forward to having him back on the show. As between BTR issues and schedule conflicts, we have not had him over the last couple weeks. So looking forward to having him back on the show, as the Atlanta Falcons defense was impressive. Darren Sproles just took one very long down the sidelines, and then also was going to catch a 15-yard face mask, probably unsportsmanlike kind of deal, as he just drug him down by the face mask. So not looking too hot for the Atlanta Falcons right now. I know that we're going to talk about the Cowboys and Giants. As Bryant injury, Colts, Seahawks, Mariota, Winston, Peyton Manning, I'm in there in between. There we go. Got Peyton Manning and then the Cardinals. So a lot of great things, a lot of interesting games this weekend. College football is in full effect. Of course, we're going to talk a little bit about that as well before we get both of those guests on. Great weekend to be a Buckeye fan. I tell you what, this is definitely a season that Buckeye fans are definitely enjoying, coming off a national title and coming out 2-0. Kind of worried about that offense. Was not the most impressive outing for the Ohio State Buckeyes. Defensively, I guess it don't really matter how, and the Philadelphia Eagles just scored to make this a 2017 game. So it's the first game of the Monday night. Definitely looking to be an interesting game. I tell you what, between St. Louis and the Seattle Seahawks going in overtime and the Dallas Cowboys coming back last night, you couldn't ask for too many more better games, especially the latter half of the day. But I know the Ohio State Buckeyes, I know they catch a lot of flack for the fact that maybe that helps. I'm not sure if that helps any. Let me know if that breaks down the noise a little bit. Now, hopefully that made it better. I'm not sure which one we're picking up. I got everything. Kind of playing with the knobs here, trying to get, apologize for trying to get everything balanced with the soundboard here, so both sides have a optimal opportunity to hear this show. But defensively, Ohio State, even worse. Better when I'm talking. Oh, it's not too bad. Might actually just go back to not having a live on Spreaker. We'll give it a shot, see how it sounds. Offensively, Ohio State didn't look the greatest, but defensively, I guess it really didn't make a difference. Held Hawaii to under 100 yards passing, first time since 1998. I know the score says 38-0. I was not really that impressed with what I've seen out of Ohio State. I would have liked a more dominant performance. Maybe that helped. I cut a fan out as well. I'd have liked a more dominant performance out of the Ohio State Buckeyes, especially against an unranked Hawaii team. But needless to say, 38-0, got them 59 out of 61 votes that I've seen on one poll so far out there. Like I said, I definitely would have liked a better outing, a more of offensive outing. Show us, what weapons we actually have on the offense. More of a defensive strengthening show. We just simply defensively outmuscled them, was faster than them. Really all aspects of the defense side of the ball. What was sloppy about it? Offense, and there's a lot of factors we could play into this. I know one of the excuses they kept bringing up was the fact that Ohio State was coming off the short week, playing that Monday night game. So, with all that said, with the travel and everything else, I figure it was Tuesday before they got back and everything else. I don't like that excuse because Granted, you're not going from Saturday to Saturday, but you still had like 5 days. I mean, you got Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, 4 days of rest, and you're going against an unranked Hawaii team. But offensively, yes, it wasn't. There was drop passes that shouldn't have been dropped. You got your pros and your cons with Cordell Jones versus J.T. Barrett. Starting to think I like more of the J.T. Barrett approach. I think Cordell Jones would be a better pocket passer for an NFL team, but college is a little bit more high-tempo kind of setting versus the NFL. Like I said, I think Cordell Jones is your better NFL quarterback, and a quarterback you would build your franchise around. J.T. Barrett, yes, fun to watch, energetic, not quite as deep on the arm, but is faster on the feet. More of a college high-tempo atmosphere. So they're sticking with Cordell Jones, but would not mind seeing J.T. Barrett get the nod as a starting quarterback. I think that would help a lot and tremendously for the Ohio State Buckeyes. All in all, Braxton Miller had another solid afternoon, so I was glad to see that. A lot of great action, and we got to see a lot of things out of the Ohio State Buckeyes. So definitely excited. Buckeye fans definitely excited. I know the rest of the nation is tired of hearing about the Ohio State Buckeyes because it seems every week that as we approach the weekend, we're talking about how dominant the Ohio State Buckeyes are, and if anybody can beat them, and by the time the weekend's over with, now it's another check in the win column. This Ohio State team, this the Ohio State team, that their only real opponents themselves, so on and so on. So I can imagine how tired non-Buckeye fans are here. And a few years back we kind of had to hear the same story with the Alabama Crimson Tide, especially when they were making their run of national titles. And I know how tired we was hearing, how tired we was of hearing about it, being a non-Alabama fan. So I can imagine how tired the Ohio State Buckeye fans out there really feel about this win, about this Ohio State Buckeye team. I can only imagine. A lot of interesting matchups this weekend. A lot more upsets than I guess a lot of people were expecting. I was kind of shocked in some of the games. I got to be humored by some of the upsets. There was, like I said, some really good matchups this weekend, and some games that really got a lot of teams on the edge of the seat. And I think the most entertaining upset of the weekend, though, for me, and I know it had to be for almost every Ohio State. Well, it had to be for every Ohio State Buckeye fan out there. Was the Toledo upset over Arkansas. Of course, the Arkansas coach is the one that's been very vocal about the Ohio State Buckeye schedule and showing his dissatisfaction of what the Ohio State's how easy he feels that the Ohio State's schedule is. So it was definitely entertaining to see Arkansas get taken out by Toledo, out of all teams, a team that I don't think any other team in the top 25 would have had a problem with, or really if it took serious. Obviously, Arkansas did not take serious, but obviously it was obviously just obviously too much for the Arkansas Razorbacks, as they've 18th ranked Arkansas falls to Toledo 16-12. Oklahoma over Tennessee. That was a close one. The same Tennessee team that allowed 57 yards in their previous week against an unranked opponent. This week, they watched a 17-point lead dwindled down to nothing as Tennessee jumped out 17-0. Held Tennessee allowed Oklahoma only get 348 yards. Definitely down from that 557 yards the previous week. But Tennessee takes the loss. Oklahoma gets the win, gets to keep on going with that 2-0 record. Other interesting matchups that Auburn almost losing to Jacksonville State in overtime, 27-20. Sixth-ranked Auburn does move on, but definitely showed the world that maybe Auburn is not quite as good as some people thought Auburn was going to be, as they really struggled against a Jacksonville State team that, first of all, they should have not struggled against, but definitely should have not won in overtime with. You're the big bad Auburn Tigers. You're the SEC. You should not be struggling against a Jacksonville State team. You know, I thought it was bad enough that the Ohio State Buckeyes struggled, in my opinion, against Hawaii with that. Even though it was 38-0, to me that was kind of a struggle because their offense didn't really show much. But 27-20 against the unranked Jacksonville State. Everybody wants a message when I try to do a show. It never cease to amaze me when people want to try to get a hold of me finally for the day. But Sherman's Jacksonville State team. One of the ones that I see, TCU kind of redeemed themselves, even though they did lose that number 2 spot to Alabama, rightfully so. As much as it hates me to say that Alabama should be number 2, they are the second best team in the nation. TCU did bounce back and win 70-7 against SF Austin. Same TCU team that struggled to beat Minnesota and only won by 6 points. I was able to rebound, show a little bit of strength. Yes, I applaud you. Yay. You beat up on a nobody. But, yes, they were able to be victorious. Once again, Georgia Tech enjoying themselves in the top 25, highly overrated. I guess 65-10 over Tulane will help keep their over ratings in the top 25. Notre Dame almost suffered a loss. Had to come back with 34-27 victory over Virginia. As ninth-ranked Notre Dame barely holds on. Mississippi, Ole Miss, another high-scoring one, 73-21 over Fresno State. We're not going to look too deep into that. Texas A&M over Texas A&M got a nice little bump on that. Texas A&M, 16th ranked, 56-23 over Ball State. Arizona was able to be victorious over Nevada, 44-20. Missouri was over Arkansas State, 27-20. Baylor, 66-31 over Lamar. Another great game this weekend, and another example of the Big Ten flexing its muscle as Michigan State is able to hold on and beat Oregon. Yes, 5th-ranked Michigan State was victorious over 7th-ranked Oregon, 31-28. It was a nice, impressive win. LSU, 14th-ranked LSU over 25th-ranked Mississippi State, 21-19. Another close, hard-fought battle. There you go. BYU upsets number 20th-ranked Boise State, 35-24. Like I said, there was just a lot of great games. I was really impressed. Had the opportunity once again to sit here and enjoy a bunch of football, a bunch of racing again this weekend. Ohio State clear-cut favorites, number 1 on top of the poll after week 2. With 59 out of the 61 votes, I don't understand you shut out a Hawaii team, and I understand it's a Hawaii team, but you shut them out. Didn't even allow them to have 100 yards passing. You might not have put up 6,000 points, but you still won 38-0, and you went from being unanimous 61 votes to now you got 59 out of 61 votes. That makes no sense. Alabama, number 2. Rightfully so, still the second best team in the nation. TCU, that's still to be determined whether or not they should be even the third-ranked team at this point, Michigan State, probably Georgia, maybe a couple of the teams I could see being better than TCU. Even with Oregon's loss to number 5 Michigan State, I still hold Oregon to be a better team than TCU, and I'm actually kind of shocked that they went from 7th ranked all the way down to 12th ranked in the AP Top 25 because they lost to Michigan State. They lost to the 5th ranked team. Notre Dame struggled, beat an unranked Virginia team, and you're going to hold more value in Notre Dame than you do Oregon. That makes no sense to me at all. Same with Florida State. I don't know how somebody rightfully sleeps at night with those kind of thoughts. 4th ranked Michigan State, I actually should see them numbers 3rd. I would rather see them 3rd. At this point, you beat a Western Michigan team. Not the greatest, but, an in-state rival, plays a little bit different of a level at that point. But then you turn around and beat number 7th ranked Oregon. And like I said, TCU has not beat anybody at this point and struggled against an unranked team. I would feel more comfortable with an undefeated Michigan State being number 3 versus an undefeated TCU based off your schedules so far. Baylor 5th, USC 6th, Georgia 7th, Notre Dame 8th, Florida State 9th, UCLA 10th. Clemson comes in at 11th. Oregon 12th, LSU 13th, Georgia Tech 14th. Yes, they are going to move up another spot, unfortunately. Mississippi is going to move up to 15th. 2 teams that have played absolutely nothing. I don't care to the fact that they've scored 100-some-odd points each. As I think Ole Miss has scored 70-plus in each of the first 2 games, and Georgia Tech ain't too far behind, 50 or 60 points in each of the first 2 games as well. I don't care how many points you score. When you play nobody, it really means nothing to me. Texas A&M moves up. They're going to be 17th. Auburn slips down to 18th. Big hit. And speaking of a big hit, that was a big hit. Big on the running back of the Atlanta Falcons, but he spun off of it and still gained a couple more yards, as it's still 20-17. Flag down, but Atlanta is in the within the 10, inside the 10, but it was called back. So I still think they're in the red zone. But anyway, Auburn took a really big hit with that loss going down to 18th. BYU gets a little bump with their win up to 19th. Arizona moves up 2 spots to the 20th spot. Utah 21st, Missouri 22nd, Northwestern 23rd, Wisconsin 24th, and Oklahoma State 25th. I know a lot of people don't like the fact and like to talk about the Big Ten and feel that a lot of overrating, a lot of hype on a conference that they just simply don't like. But you got 4 teams in the top 25 for the Big Ten. That's almost the 6th of the polls locked up right there, with Wisconsin, Northwestern, Ohio State, and Michigan State. I wouldn't be surprised if we see Wisconsin dance there. Wouldn't be surprised if we see Nebraska dance their way back into the top 25 as well. Not too far from now, but that's your top 25. Some of the teams, I'm not quite sure what the college polls was thinking when they decided on this, but I like the matchups we're seeing. I kind of surprised a few times on some of the upsets. Never in a million years would I thought anybody would let Toledo go in and beat them, but Arkansas, thank you. Like I said, Jacksonville, I'm sorry, but that 6th-ranked Auburn almost losing to Jacksonville State. How does Auburn go from 6th to 18th when you almost lose to Jacksonville State? But you only moved. What was the one we lost earlier? That's one we was talking about earlier. That they moved them down. Oh, you move Auburn down from 6th to 18th, and they almost lose to Jacksonville State, but Notre Dame's actually going to move up 1 spot and almost lost to Virginia. It wasn't until the very end of that game that Notre Dame takes that lead and secures a victory as Notre Dame scored with 43 seconds left on the clock, as Notre Dame was down by a point, and obviously the 2-point conversion was good, but with 43 seconds left, that's when Virginia took the lead. Notre Dame took the lead. So how do you bump Auburn, who wins against the Jacksonville State team, and drops them 12 positions in the standings, but you've got Notre Dame actually moving up a spot when they won with just 43 seconds left on the clock. Those are some of the things that I don't understand. And I had somebody message me yesterday. Message me. Message me yesterday. Sent me a text message talking about that they were glad that football was, the NFL was finally back. That now it was time. I want to make sure I get this message quoted correctly here. Yes, sir. Happy to see he was talking about on to real football. Enough with the free labor of the NCAA. I was entertained with that. Is not too happy with the production. I guess is ready for some real football. But I've been liking this so far. This beginning of the season, like I said, this is the first year I've really had an opportunity to catch a lot of college football. A lot of everything, just with the work schedule and having the tools to be able to do everything that I want to do and need to do and be able to keep up with everything. And so it's great to have the opportunity. And now that I've had the chance to sit here and watch the games that I've gotten to watch. I have been rather pleasantly surprised with some of the matchups that I've got to see so far. So next week we got some interesting matchups. Clemson, the 11th-ranked Clemson is going into Louisville. It's Thursday's night game, so we'll have that in a couple nights. Should be an easy Clemson win, but it being an ACC rival and the ups and downs with Louisville, it could be there could be an upset in the making. I don't think there's going to be. I see a lot of lopsided games going on at first. You got Florida State and Boston College. Should be a lopsided. Missouri at home against Connecticut. That should be lopsided. Oklahoma against Tulsa. Oklahoma's home. That should be an Oklahoma win. Air Force visiting Michigan State. Obviously, that should be an easy win for Michigan State. Nevada going to Texas A&M. Obviously, easy there. Northwestern going to Duke. Obviously, Northwestern should have that with ease. Georgia State going to Oregon. Oregon, that should be an easy win for them. UTSA going to Oklahoma State. That might be an interesting game. Oklahoma should have it, but it might be an interesting game. Northern Illinois at Ohio State. Obviously, Ohio State should have that easily. Troy going to Wisconsin. Obviously, Wisconsin should. 18th ranked Auburn going against 13th ranked LSU. That'll be a good game. Highly overrated Georgia Tech going to Notre Dame. I think that Notre Dame is going to put Georgia Tech in their place. I wouldn't be surprised if it's even a close game. South Carolina against Georgia. Ought to be an interesting game, even though it's a 7th-ranked Georgia team. South Carolina not ranked. This being an SEC matchup in national titles and bowl game implications, probably going to spin from this. I expect it to be a very good game, a close game. I still think Georgia will be victorious, but it definitely should be an interesting game. Stanford at USC, same thing with bowls and possible national title implications from this one as well. This should be a big matchup and a personal rivalry. 6th ranked USC obviously needs this to stay on path for any of the top 5 teams to happen to fall. Stanford obviously wants to stand in the way. SMU going to TCU should be a lopsided victory with the overranked 3rd-ranked TCU. Good game. We'll see how overrated Ole Miss is with all those 70-point games when they visit number 2 Alabama. Then we get another good one. 19th-ranked BYU will go in to play 10th-ranked UCLA. 21st-ranked Utah against Fresno State should be a pretty good game, tight game. I think Utah will be victorious. And then Northern Arizona at 20th ranked Arizona. That should be Arizona's game for the taking there. So like I said, a lot of interesting games, a lot of good games out there. So looking forward to seeing what this upcoming week for the NCAA is looking like. Nautical Sue not getting suspended or fined or anything for his kick. No matter which side of the ball you want to be on, Sue has always been kind of the center focal point of post play action. No matter what it is, if it's dirty, if it's getting too rough, a lot of things. So this weekend was no exception, as we got to see Sue do what could be strewed as a dirty play, a kick. The NFL didn't view it that way. I know as bad as this looked, and at times intentional as it has looked for when he has done things, I'm going to say I don't think it was really that intentional. Did I think that he tried to go out of his way to not kick the player in the head? No, I don't think so. Not by any stretch of the imagination. But do I think that he was intentionally trying to kick him or intentionally trying to cause injury? No, at the same time. Yes, it appears that he had kicked Redskins running back Alfred Morris in the head. I know that's what it looked like, but I'm fine with the league not doing anything. Like I said, I don't think that it was intentional, but I don't think at the same time he tried to avoid it. So it's just bad because Sue has put himself in this predicament so much and so often that it makes it hard to believe when he is really not intentionally doing something. And, of course, with the way it looks, I know how it looks, and I know how easy it would have been for the league to take action. So I'm glad that they didn't. I'm glad that they decided to not have any suspension, not have any kind of penalty or anything. Update on the first game of the Monday night game. Philadelphia has just scored a touchdown, so Philadelphia is up 24-23 over the Atlanta Falcons that I think were up 20-3 at one point in time, if I'm not mistaken. So Philadelphia definitely making a comeback, definitely definitely a good game. But like I said, I don't have a problem with the NFL not suspending them. You know, at some points we got to put some of the manly stuff back into the game, and you know, as long as he ain't intentionally look like he's trying to kick his head off, I'm fine with it. Like I said, it just looked like he just didn't try to avoid it. That was really the extent of it. Pittsburgh Steelers fans, get over it. Please, just get over. You amaze me. Not only Steelers fans, but anti-Tom Brady, anti-New England Patriots fans. You blow me away. I have never, ever seen such hatred against a player or against a team in my lifetime. And this opening game was no different. As we had two different Brady or Tom Patriots cheating, finger-pointing accusations going on once again. First, they're going to claim that the Patriots have something to do with the headsets for the Pittsburgh Steelers not working. And that this supposedly has been an issue every single time, according to Mike Tomlin. You know, it's funny that it was never pointed out or never complained about until the New England Patriots were in the spotlight for supposedly cheating with the Flake game. So, all of a sudden, because the New England Patriots are underneath the spotlight, now you want to point this out. Now all of a sudden, this is an every time we go to Gillette Stadium issue. I find it hard to believe that all of a sudden it is now, or all of a sudden this has been an issue for years because they're factoring under the microscope. Then I'm watching stuff getting posted on social media, and Chris Creighton from Yellow Caution Flag is also one of the co-hosts on Thursday Night Show over Racing with Big Sweat, sent me something that someone had shared, and about the fact that the time clock got resetted. It looked like Tom Brady had made some kind of signal, and all of a sudden the time clock had resetted and gave them more time. What is amusing to me about that is I can't tell you how many games that I've watched the time clock person start the clock too early, not stop the clock, or just was not in sync with the refs and they fixed it. It's as simple as that. I doubt that the league, and this is what really makes me shake my head on. Really, you guys are going to go there. I really doubt that the officiating crew or the league would do anything to help the New England Patriots or Tom Brady in specific after the fact that Tom Brady just made the NFL look ignorant and dumb as hell. What made anybody think, you know what? Tom Brady just got off, in the eyes of the NFL, got off and got away with cheating. But what we're going to do is we're going to help Tom Brady cheat. Is there anybody else out there that does not make sense to? I mean, come on now. Let's think about it. Why are the same people that Tom Brady just embarrassed, why would they help Tom Brady in some kind of cheating scandal? And why would anybody do anything that, knowing that all eyes are going to be on the New England Patriots and how everything is done, held from the officiating of a game all the way up to, yes, to include the time clocks. So what was honestly probably just legitimately a screw up or a glitch in the clock, in the timing of the play clock, turned into being one more ridiculous scandal. One more ridiculous scandal that the anti-Brady and the anti-New England Patriots fans get to hover on and get to throw up there. So now you got headset gates, and now you got time clock gate to add on to that. The Atlanta Falcons, with 6.5 minutes left, just went up on the Philadelphia Eagles 26-24. This is a great back and forth game, but just crazy to me that we had to take away from a game that Tom Brady throws 4 touchdowns. That's the kind of game we were expecting Tom Brady to have, because you got a certain fan base out there that is bound and determined that they're going to find something that is going to stick on the New England Patriots that they have cheated. I don't know, it just blows my mind. We knew this was going to be an issue going into the season. We knew that this was going to continue to be one of the unfortunately hot topics of the NFL. Instead of being focused what's going on the field, instead of focusing on all the great games we got to see this weekend, people are going to be focused on and stressing over what calls should or should not have been made, and everything else that's got to do with the New England Patriots. Like I said, it's just really sad that's going to be the center focal attention, and not only the beginning of the season, not only week one, but it's probably going to be the center focal points of most of this NFL season, if not the whole NFL season. And good Lord, heaven forbid, the New England Patriots find themselves back in the Super Bowl, because if they do that, oh no, Lord have mercy, it will never be an ending cycle of things about the New England Patriots. So I one side of me wants to see the Patriots overcome all odds and win a Super Bowl, but I just don't think that is something that I want to hear as part of a conversational piece, a conversation at the water fountain, the round table, or any other ways. Any other way that you have your daily sports conversation. It's sad. You know, every sport's got their hot topic that has nothing to do with what's going on the field, on the ice, whatever the case in the ring, or whatever the case would be. And unfortunately, this is going to be one of them that is going to continue to drag on and on and on. I tell you what, the Philadelphia Eagles are definitely trying to stay relevant in this game as they're making a last dish effort. There's about 6 minutes left in the game, so I mean, there's plenty of time. This still could go back and forth a couple more times. But what took Philadelphia a long time to get motivated and get into sync, they've definitely found a rhythm. I'm definitely looking forward to the second half of this doubleheader, the 49ers and the Minnesota Vikings. As I got players on both of those teams, and one of my last two FanDuel fantasy matchups are 1 week games for this weekend. So hoping that Carlos Hyde and Adrian Peterson, I have them at both of my leagues, have a phenomenal game, and I have Anquan Bolden as a receiver on one of those two teams as well. So hopefully that things turn around, as Sam Bradford was my quarterback on both of them. I needed a cheap quarterback, and so that was my picking. Started off kind of rough for Sam Bradford, but I think we're finally getting our mojo going here for Sam Bradford. He's thrown for some touchdowns. Not really closing the gap, but hopefully he starts working on closing that. We start closing that gap in my league. We got Steve Billmeyer joining us here in a couple minutes, as we got some NASCAR to talk about. So as we had Richmond, we got the Chase. We got a lot of things going on in the NASCAR world that we definitely got to jump into, talk about, and get covered in the next 30 minutes. And then also we got Patrick Taylor joining us at 10:30, and talk to the NFL. And this has definitely got to be one of the more interesting topics that I got to get Steve's opinion on. And when it comes to NASCAR, because it's something we don't get to see on a regular basis. And here we are, not only but a couple of years removed from the last time this happened. So definitely looking forward to having that conversation with Steve. maybe it's something that's been going on for years in the racing world that I didn't know about. I don't recall seeing it. Obviously, with the social media being the way it is now, and the way the social media is now, and even more cameras and more eyes on NASCAR, maybe it's been something that has been an issue in the past and just didn't know about it. But we're about to hopefully find out here soon. In Steve's point of view and eyes of being around NASCAR for a long time, and we'll get to the bottom of that. But the chase is definitely shaped up to be a great chase. I'm looking forward to seeing what these 16 competitors do and how well they are able to perform in the chase. As we got a lot of talented drivers in this year's chase, as obviously we have every year, but we got some teams that are in uncharted territory, I guess. We got some drivers that in some organizations that you don't get no hotter than what they are. And so going into this week, it's going to be interesting to see how they handle themselves in the actual chase. And then you got some teams that are not used to being where they're at and not really being productive and not really being a factor when it comes to the chase and the end of the season. So definitely got a couple different teams going into this chase in a couple different ways, and so definitely want to look into that and break that down and get opinions. Was hoping to get him on here before we jump into this, but I'm gonna start talking about maybe Steve will be joining us here in a few. And I know BTR that's the reason why we were starting the show late. BTR had a lot of issues and not letting me call in, and so it took me a hot minute to get called in. So I can imagine other people might be having the same issue as I have. So I'll keep checking the studio looking for Steve. But I think I got the opportunity to watch Richmond, and first of all, holy crap. Matt Kenseth just ran away with that. Like there was no other way to put it. Like Kenseth dominated that race. A race that I was expecting, I don't know, a little more competitiveness. Yes, she's a misleading, boring race. I agree. With there being so many drivers, I mean, Matt Kenseth led 352 out of 400 laps. You had Hamlin that had 14. You had Logano with 25. I guess he's 39. That's 391 of the laps. The other 9 was Kyle Busch. You had 4 leaders. That was it. A race that I was expecting to be very interesting. A race that I was expecting there to be so many different agendas. You had technically you had 17 through 30th spots, minus Kyle Busch, that all they had to do was win the race, and they were in the chase. So you had those 13, 14 cars that were 12 to 14 cars, how many that is. You had them on one agenda. It was kind of all in. You either won and you're in the chase, or you spend the next 10 races either worrying about your contract and where you're going to be driving next year, or working on your next year's setups and next year's strategy. Then you have, 4 drivers? I think there was 4 of them. I think 5 counting Jamie Mack, but Jamie Mack all he had to do was start the car up and take the green flag, and he was automatically locked in. So you had 4 other drivers that yes, they wanted to win the race, but they were going to do it in a conservative manner because points did factor into a couple of those drivers, whether or not they're going to make it. Paul Menard and I think one of the drivers right there at the bottom that it affected as well. Clint Boyer. Those two drivers, that they were more, worried about being conservative, staying out of everybody's, crap and entanglements, and also making sure that they game planned in a way that they could finish good enough to make sure that they did not lose enough points that Eric Almirola did not get in the chase instead of finishing 17 points outside of the chase. Then you had certain drivers that it was win or nothing. They did that's ultimately, and that's pretty much your top 10, 11 drivers, all those that had at least one win. Some were a little bit more strategic about it because yes, that could put them, because the reset in the first round, your wins gives you 3 extra bonus points. So of course, going to the race was Kevin Harvick and Kyle Busch being tied with 4 wins. Yes, it would have been nice if Jimmy Johnson and Kyle Busch had both had 4 wins. It would have been nice. Either one of them would have been happy to get that win, so they could have been number one with 3 extra points above everybody else going into the race instead of now being tied with Kyle Busch, Matt Kenseth, and Jimmy Johnson, all those 3 of those being tied. One of those 2 would have loved to have been sitting on top by themselves and having a 3-point lead over second place, and then that person would have enjoyed having a 3-point lead over Kenseth, who would have been tied with Joey Logano at that point. So, you had your top drivers that, yes, they really didn't care if they finished or not. They were pretty much going as looking at it as an all-star race. It was all or nothing. It was we win and take the trophy home, take the big prize home, or we're not bringing the car home because there's really no point. Like I said, you had 4 or 5 of them that needed to be conservative, would like to get the win, but needed to manage themselves and stay out of trouble so that they can maintain being in the top 16. You had 17th through 30th that it was all or nothing as well. They needed to find a way to get into victory lane so they had an opportunity to be in the chase. So with all those different strategies going on, I was really expecting it play out on the track. I was expecting to see some fender bending. I was expecting to see some off-the-wall strategy to try to put themselves into a fuel window situation or lucky with the cautions or just something. And I expected somebody to have something for Matt Kenseth. Good God. It seems like the only time that anybody had anything for Matt Kenseth was really at the restart. They might get the jump on him, but shortly after that, Kenseth would take the lead back, and that was really the extent of it. So I not what I was expecting for Richmond Race, and it seemed like this happened last year as well. We had all the same kind of build-up and all the same kind of hype, and it just kind of it was kind of follow the leader. If you're not going to cause me to have to try any harder than what I'm trying, then we're essentially kind of taking this as a week off. Hats off to Denny Hamlin for putting on the performance he did with the torn ACL in his right leg. We talked a little bit about that on Racing with Big Sweats on Thursday night. He got a 6th-place finish. Very impressive. Led 16 laps. Left foot might have been a little bit more of an issue, but since you just kind of rotate your foot on the back of your heel and accelerate, not that big of a concern for Denny Hamlin or Joe Gibbs Racing. As a matter of fact, he wanted what changes they made to be put back into place the way they were. Asked if he wanted a backup driver. He said, no, I will not be needing one. So, definitely hats off to Denny Hamlin and his performance on the track and his toughness. Now, I did see a shot at LeBron James in basketball where it said LeBron gets cramped, gets carried off the game. Denny Hamlin tears an ACL, goes out and races. And someone commented and they say something about athletes. I agree 100% that drivers are athletes. I will never argue against this. I know what it takes to be in the car. I know what they put their body through. I know that most of them, if not all of them, have some kind of gym regimen and everything else. Yes, you have a couple of drivers that are overweight, and it puts a bad name in a lot of people's eyes and just think a bunch of pot-bellied, beer-drinking rednecks are drivers. And that's not the case. Some of the most athletic people are in NASCAR. Is you got drivers that do triathlons and compete in many different things outside of the race, outside of their sports. And Denny Hamlin is a prime example, torn the ACL playing basketball. So never will have that argument otherwise. But you can't at the same time have an argument that LeBron cramps up and gets carried off the court versus someone tears the ACL and sits in a race car. As much as say something about being athletes, because that does not help your argument by any stretch of the imagination. I'm sorry, but you can't say running up and down the basketball court using that kind of exertion and everything else that it doesn't take to be a basketball player and cramping up is the same as you have a leg injury, but ultimately you're sitting in a car for the afternoon. I know it's uncomfortable. I know there's more to it. Don't get me wrong. Like I said, I 100% say that athletes or drivers are athletes, but don't fuel the fire with unnecessary comparison, because one does not compare to another. Because that torn ACL in any other sports, he would have been playing. Yes, he happens to be in a sport that, and Atlanta Falcons with 1 minute left just picked off Sam Bradford on a tip pass. The Atlanta Falcons are going to go 1-0. The Philadelphia Eagles are going to go 0-1. Hopefully that does not hurt my my fantasy league too bad, because I do have Sam Bradford, as I mentioned earlier, so we're going to find this out. But any other sport, if Denny Hamlin would have been playing, and yes, took a big hit. Any other sport, Denny Hamlin would have been playing, he would have not been playing in this. He would have not been participating this weekend, because he is sitting in a car and not to put no pressure on his leg, and more specifically that right leg that was demonstrated by drivers. Basically, his heel sitting there, and he just kind of rotating on his heel, and that's the extent of what he's got to do. That was why he was out there. So, like I said, I will argue my last breath of the fact that drivers are athletes, and I have no problem classifying them that. But fans of NASCAR drivers and of NASCAR the sport, you really sometimes need to learn how to pick and choose your battles, because that was not a good example and a good argument to try to defend, because one does not compare to the other. Because, like I said, no matter how much you think drivers are athletes, if they had to be on their feet at any point versus sitting in the car, Denny Hamlin would have not been participating in this weekend's activities. And so, like I said, that's a no-go. That does not work. Like we used to say back in my day in the military, that would be a November Oscar, Golf Oscar. That is a no-go. So I understand there's a certain amount of pride in being a fan of a certain sport, and I understand that NASCAR fans take a lot of flack for watching a sport that they just go and do circles and left-hand turns. I 100% recast. BTR, we got to call into the show, and for some reason, it's exceeded 15 minutes, but for some reason, my phone likes to shut off, usually at the halfway point for some reason. It just automatically turns off. Today it made it to the hour and 15-minute mark before it just automatically shut itself off. But I don't even know what I was talking about other than the fact that you can't compare one to the other. It just doesn't work. Another interesting thing, this is something I was hoping to be able to talk to Steve about, but it looks like we're not going to get him tonight, is Michael McDowell running into the safety truck. I'm curious to know if this is something that has been an issue in the sport longer than I've realized. As we had Juan Pablo run into the jet dryers a few years back, I want to say probably about 4-ish years ago at this point, causing a really big delay because it caused a really big fire, obviously slamming into a jet fuel dryer that was full of fuel. Now here we are in 2015, and Michael McDowell wipes out about half his car, slamming into a safety truck. I don't necessarily get it. I don't understand what it is about going at a caution pace behind other cars that you've got to be in a line with, and you hit a big truck. I'm sorry, but unfortunately he was crunched into it with nowhere to go. I'm talking about to me, there's no excuse. Like, it's a truck. Hey, spotter, somebody's got to say something, and instead of just watch the video, yeah, no room. I'm sorry, but with the lives out there of the safety people and the NASCAR officials, I'm sorry, but there's no excuse. And I don't care if he was pinched or not. Things have got to be done at a better thing. This is the only thing I've seen so far on him. Of all the vehicles you expected to hit the NASCAR track, hit on the NASCAR track, the safety truck is among the last. That was exactly what happened on Saturday's race. Oh, no, Michael McDowell. And it wiped everything off my screen here. Oh, no, Michael McDowell has a major damage after hitting the safety truck. With roughly 100 laps remaining in the Federated Auto Parts 400 in Richmond, NASCAR threw a caution for debris in turn 3 as the cars were cycling around. McDowell flat out and nailed the safety truck. No one was injured, though. The safety workers in the truck were sent to an infield care center. The marks of the second collision of the safety truck this season at Sonoma. Matt DiBianato hit a safety truck as well. It's no Juan Pablo Montoya at Daytona Fireball, but still it's a matter of concern. And I agree. I don't care if he was pinched. I don't care exactly how it happened. Don't like the fact that I'm sorry, but there's people out there working, and there's enough deaths that go on the track on a weekly basis, and it seems, especially since the whole Kevin Ward Jr. thing happened, we hear more and more about it. It seems that especially those that are anti-racing bring that to the attention, to the front banner, per se, more and more because of, what happened. At the highest level, these kind of mistakes and these kind of things should not be happening at all. And so something needed to be done. Something obviously has got to be done, and something's got to be modified. Spotters, if he knew that nobody was getting out of his way, he should have hit his brakes. I mean, there's a reason why they were in his car. I'm not trying to pick on the driver, but I am more concerned. I'm not concerned if somebody let him in. I'm not concerned if he was able to finish the race. I'm not concerned on how that dictated him being in the chase or not being in the chase or any other implications that could or could not have had. I don't care if his sponsors was giving him a one more, you need to be a top 25 team, top 30 driver, whatever, or drop you scenario, and he screwed that up. I don't care. My concern is the safety of the safety workers out there that are trying to do their job, that want to go home to their family, that are trying to make sure that there's food on the table and everything else. There's no sense that we're constantly seeing race car drivers who manage to go 200 miles an hour around the track without wrecking each other, but traveling at speeds of 50, 60 miles an hour, and you run into a truck that is not even, it's on the outside. There's no excuse. This is a sport of what's supposed to be the best of the best, and not only the best of the best, but the best of the best drivers at that. You know, I understand if the NFL drivers were out there, NFL players were out there, and something happens, they might be the best of the best in their sport, but they're not drivers. These are the best of the best, and they're supposed to be race car drivers. How is this happening, and how has this happened twice in one season? I don't like it. I'm not a fan of this happening for any reason at all. Richmond was the last race of the chase. The field has been reset. We now know your top 16 and who has an opportunity. To hoist the Sprint Cup trophy at the end of the year. Definitely looking forward to this elimination process that that NASCAR implicated last year, and looking forward to see how it play. Jimmy Johnson sitting on top, Matt Kenseth and Kyle Busch all tied. All three of those drivers I honestly could see being part of our Final Four. My fourth driver, if I was to pick right now, it would be Jimmy Johnson, Matt Kenseth, Kyle Busch, and Kevin Harvick. Those, to me, are your four most consistent best drivers, and I know that's kind of using that terminology loosely when it comes to Hendrick Motorsports or Jimmy Johnson, but this is Jimmy Johnson and Chad Knaus and Hendrick Motorsports, and I cannot count them out of any chase ever. So those would be my Final Four. Technically in fourth spot with a three-way tie for first, but second actually in your points right now, Joey Logano. He would probably be my wild card factor. If it was a final five, he would definitely be in my final five. But I can't see him being amongst the top four, but put himself in a really good position, having the second most wins in the series this year. Your next group of tied members in the Sprint Cup chase that are technically fifth, but they're tied four-way tie for fifth. You got Dale Jr., Kurt Busch, Colin Edwards, and Kevin Harvick. All have had decent seasons. They've had their ups and their downs, so interesting to see how those drivers do. The next three are tied technically for ninth. You got Denny Hamlin, Brett Keselowski, and Martin Truex. Actually, I don't. I'm gonna backtrack. I'm taking Jimmy Johnson out of that equation. Brad Keselowski is my fourth one. It's Keselowski, Harvick, Matt Kenseth, Kyle Busch are my four. Also, Martin Truex is that tie. And then your final set of drivers, you got Clint Bowyer, Jamie McMurray, Gordon, Ryan Newman, Paul Menard. First round elimination, I expect Paul Menard to be gone. I expect Clint Bowyer to be gone. I expect Paul Menard. I said Clint Bowyer. I think Ryan Newman. And I'm going to say Martin Truex. Something tells me Jamie Mack out of that bottom group, Jamie Mack and Jeff Gordon will make it into the next round. So I'm going to eliminate Truex, Clint Bowyer, Ryan Newman, and Paul Menard out of the first round. If I was to take an educated guess on who I think is going to be eliminated, like I said, this new chase format, obviously very interesting. Very excited about seeing how year two of this chase format works out. But Chicagoland kicks it off next week. Very excited about it. And what also makes this interesting is, once again, you're going to have 16 drivers on one game plan, and then you're going to have the rest of the field out there on a whole other game plan, the other 27 drivers. The other 27 drivers, they are auditioning for future contracts or future sponsors, and they're just shooting for wins. The first 16 drivers, obviously, they are shooting for wins, but they're also point racing at the same time. Three race dashes. This is not a marathon. This is just 3 lap. This is just a 3 lap dash, not a marathon. So I like it, and I'm curious to watch the strategies and how they all play out. Like I said, you got so many different drivers, single car teams that are looking for their next year's sponsorships that need to have drivers. Some drivers that will be test driving for possible spots for the upcoming season. Drivers that know they're not going to be returning, and so they're auditioning. Some drivers just wanting to get a win. There's a lot of different scenarios and game plans. I would not be surprised if Larson gets a victory this year. Miss Lee said look for Larson to be a spoiler in the chase. He's especially hungry since he didn't make the chase. Just missed the chase once again. But I tell you what, who gave a really good effort. And if we was to add a 17 spot to any driver out there, like they did for Jeff Warren, making it 13 drivers so they could put him in so he wouldn't make the chase a couple years back, Eric Almirola. I am not a fan of Eric Almirola. I'm not a big fan of the garbage that goes on at Richard Petty Motorsports. Nothing against him, but you not a program to me that is taken serious enough for the history it's got. Richard Petty Motorsports should be in victory lane and be a bit more competitive than what they have. But the effort that he put in the second half of the season and the effort that he put, especially at Richmond, and the gamble they made, which almost paid off as they got a top 4 finish. If I had to give one spot and say, we're going to add one to it, that would definitely be that person right there, because I definitely thought that they did a great job of going all in, trying to get into the chase for the 2015 chase to win this cup. So definitely hats off to that. But definitely looking forward to the chase this weekend. Playoffs begin. Like I said many times, this is definitely the most wonderful time of the year. With college football now 2 weeks in, the NFL 1 weekend, chase getting ready to start. Baseball's getting ready to wrap up their season. They're heading into the playoff. NBA is getting ready to wind up. NHL is getting ready to wind up. Speaking of NHL, we got Izzo joining us tomorrow night at 10 o'clock. I'm sorry, at 10:30 to talk NHL. We got Patrick Taylor joining us at 10 o'clock tomorrow to talk NFL. So very excited about having both of those people. We got Sarah Cornett Ching joining us again this week. The ARCA Series driver, 6 in the points, having a phenomenal season. The rookie, we got her coming back, and we also got her PR coming on the show as well. So looking forward to having both those great guests joining us this week as well. I like the lineup. I like what we got going on this week. Looking forward to that. Looking forward to sitting down, getting to do some more NFL picks this week. Didn't have the greatest of luck this week, as I've had a few losses that I wish I could take back now, especially picking my Browns. I didn't think it would be a touchdown score, not alone 41 total points. I was expecting maybe 9 or 15 points, somewhere in that ballpark figure, so I was definitely surprised about that. Chris Knight on Tuesday at 9:30, and Sarah will be joining us. And Chris is also a NASCAR reporter, and then Sarah will be joining us on Wednesday night. So very excited about both of those guests this week. And if you've not checked out our site, go over to www.the110nation.com for all the latest stuff going on over at the 110 Nation. I think the only thing I don't have updated is the schedule for this week, but I had worked on it this weekend, getting everything updated. Also, check out the latest articles. We'll be having some coming out this week over at www.the110nationsports.com. If you're not following us on Twitter, you can follow the 110 Nation at 110 Nation. You can follow myself at CJ Sports 1. If you're not like us on Facebook, you can check out my fan page, Mr. CJ Sports. You can check out the sports side and the site side of the house, 110 Nation Sports, or the radio side and the guest side of the house, 110 Nation Sports Radio. Also, make sure that you check out the 110 Nation group. I am getting it finalized right now. It's one of the things I'm working on as I do the show, because we've had posts. Right now I'm back on July 30th of 2012. When we originally opened this group, and it was for a totally different purpose. We are opening this group to open discussions, sports discussions. We would love to have opportunities for all our listeners and fans to join in on any hot topics, any threads and any of the games going on that anybody wants to talk about, post stuff about the show and stuff like that. Just an opportunity for us to be able to interact and get everybody's opinions on different NFL games, NASCAR races, college football games, whatever it may be, topics, just different topics in the sporting world. Be able to cut back, have a good time, jab at each other, keeping it friendly. We will not tolerate the same stuff the rest of the groups do not tolerate, and the bashing and the cussing and everything else. But we're opening that up and made it public early today. We'll be posting it on my Facebook page and all the fan pages as well, to let everybody know to come join our group and hang out with us and just be able to talk some sports, all sports and everything else. It was highly recommended and demanded of us to do it. So I went ahead and got things together. Honestly think that were this many posts, and now I look back, it probably at this point would have probably been easier, because I've been deleting 2 years worth of stuff. I just didn't think it had been that long. Probably been easier if I had just deleted the whole page and started a whole other page. But now I'm done committed to it, so now I'm going to finish through deleting all these posts, and I left a few on there, a few different things, a few things that was just random, and it kind of pertains to the way the group's going to be now. So I'm leaving those on there, but definitely not what I thought it was going to be. I also got to thank Snafu Seasoning for joining the 110 Nation. They are hosting and helping with the Racing with Big Sweat show. So got to welcome them to the 110 Nation. You guys can check out their product at snafuseasoning.com. That's SNAFU seasoning.com. It's a rub for your meats. Big Sweat said it goes great on bacon. He said he didn't think you could make bacon any better. I might have to try it on some bacon. Yes, I'll be ordering my bottle this week as well. They support the 110 Nation. Of course, I got to as well support the 110 Nation. Also, if you're not checked out the site, make sure you go to www.the110nation.com or look who the 110 Nation is supporting in the upcoming wrestling event that we are helping put on with Seek to Destroy Cancer, a great foundation that is raising awareness and money to help fight a particular kind of cancer. And I would try to say, but it's a big word that I will only screw up anyway. And so make sure you guys check that out over on the site. He's a former football player. He's a former many different, mainly stand out for the for the Atlanta Falcons, was one of the main teams that he stuck out with. But he was also known as Moose in the wrestling world, but glad to have him part of the show. Looking forward to sponsor him. Looking forward to having him sign some autographs and support some 110 Nation stuff. A lot of great things going on, so glad to be part of that. Glad to be able to help put on a great event to help with cancer. As you know, it's a very important part of the 110 Nation, a company that started off with not having any idea what we were doing, to being a sports company, to turn it into a company that is mainly sports, but we spend a lot of our time, a lot of our efforts, and a lot of our resources trying to be as helpful with the community and different charities and foundations as possible. It's a great thing. We love having the opportunity to do this and be a part of that. Speaking of which, Miss Lee, they were supposed to be sending over details about the Soda Tab thing. I don't know if she's contacted you, Dylan Martin's thing, but when I need some information so I can put it on the website to help promote that as well. But we got Patrick Taylor from Line Blowers joining us to talk some NFL. Looking forward to the opportunity. We got some great hot topics to talk about tonight. So looking forward to that. Don't forget, we are on Spreaker and Blog Talk Radio tonight simultaneously. Got them hooked together. After the show, we'll go back and replay and see, make sure that all the audio is in sync. If not, we'll go back to the way we were doing it, where it won't be live, but you can still hear the show on Spreaker. All the shows that are on Blog Talk, we do download and put on Spreaker. We were just hoping to make it available to be live on both sides, to bring both our fan bases together. Looking forward to seeing how that came out. But without any further delay, I got to quit talking. We've got Patrick Taylor joining us from Line Blowers. We've missed him a couple weeks. Schedule and BTR technical difficulties has hurt us. But we got him back. We got him back tonight. We got him back tomorrow night. We got a lot of great topics to jump into. So I got to shut up so we can get into this. Before we start talking NFL, I want to give him an opportunity to plug what he's got going on and what he does outside of doing this show with Line Blowers. So, Patrick, glad to have you back, and let us know what's going on over there at Line Blowers.
All righty, man. Good to be back. Lineblower.com. It's an outcome prediction website for all you sports bettors, but we also offer insight through regular posted blogs. And the newest edition, we're actually going to start posting daily fantasy lineups. So you FanDuel, DraftKings fanatics out there, you can come see what lineup we're playing this week. So that's what's new. It was a great week, first week in the NFL. Good to be talking regular season football and not the preseason stuff. So,
yes, it is. Tell you what, week one, definitely an interesting week in NFL. And I have a feeling we didn't think through on that side, so we probably will be recording it. I'm trying to do two things at once here. I know you got a lot of hot topics we got to talk about, and almost all the topics that you wanted to talk about were topics that I definitely wanted to jump into, so it was like you were reading my mind. So I'm going to let you jump on the list real quick, and let's knock all these hot topics out that were going on in the NFL that we both wanted to talk about tonight.
All righty. What you want to get started with? And do the game that just finished up. We had the Eagles and the Falcons. It was a close game. Falcons ended up pulling it out 26-24. Had the debut of DeMarco Murray. He had 8 carries for 9 yards. 8 carries for 9 yards. I'm guessing he's missing that the offensive line there in Dallas. Sam Bradford looked rough, missed a lot of throws. He ended up with 2 picks. I think it was more due to the inexperience that was at the wide receiver position for the Eagles. Kiko Alonso, the linebacker they added with the Coy trade, he had a nice interception down at the red zone, but he also had a penalty that took away a Philadelphia fumble recovery. Philadelphia ended up having 52 passes tonight with 16 runs. Definitely not what Chip Kelly probably wanted to do coming into tonight. When you get down early, you have to throw the ball, and that's not what Philadelphia wants to do. So 52-16 on pass-to-run ratio. Julio Jones was absolutely dominating. The Eagles' expensive secondary that they pay all that money to have couldn't do anything to stop him. 9 catches, 141 yards, 2 touchdowns. Matt Ryan, it was a shaky game for him. He ended up with 2 picks, but it could have been 5. He had a couple close calls there, dropped interceptions. But most importantly, it was a great game plan by Dan Quinn. He had shut the Eagles down with the Seahawks a couple of times, came in with a similar game plan. He knew the players on defense. And like I've said in previous segments here, the Eagles are going to be in trouble this year. This is just the beginning for them.
Yeah, it was actually it was an interesting game to watch the Eagles go up like they did, the Falcons go up the way they did, and then to watch the Eagles come back. You could tell there was a lot of rustiness and a lot of new pieces into that Philadelphia offense that just had to learn how to mesh and get together and learn to play on the same note. And the second half, they looked better and they looked a little bit more comfortable. And Sam Bradford started throwing that ball around a little bit better, but definitely will be interesting to see, what happens and how this Eagle team bounces back from the tough loss that they suffered, and just to pick up on the key pieces of what they learned from game 1 to help them be better in game 2.
Yeah, it'll be an interesting game. It's actually in Philadelphia, but the Cowboys come to town to take them on, and what's already a super critical game is the Eagles are going to be a game back behind the Cowboys. And with that being said, the Cowboys had a heck of a game last night against the Giants. Man, nobody had a chance to watch it. It's worth rewatching. Cowboys took care of business 27-26 in about as dramatic a fashion as you can really have. Big story, obviously, for the Cowboys. No DeMarco Murray. What are they going to do? Well, Dallas backs combined for over 200 yards from scrimmage. Joseph Randall, young running back out of Oklahoma State, was the lead guy. A lot of people thought McFadden might get the carries. McFadden had 6 carries. I think Randall ended up almost 16. Cowboys dominated the stat line the entire game, but they turned the ball over and had quite a few drop passes that kept the Giants hanging in there. Cowboys' offensive line dominated. Romo wasn't touched all night, and came down to a real weird series of events. The Giants get the ball down there in Cowboys territory. 3rd and goal from the 1, about 1:47 left on the clock. Giants have the ball. Cowboys have no timeouts, and they elect to run a bootleg. Manning throws the ball in the back of the end zone. Ends up costing the Giants about 35 seconds worth of burn time had he just gone down, had they tried to run the football. Romo drives the Cowboys down and hits Witten across the middle with about 7 seconds on the clock. Cowboys win in what should have been a loss. And just like years past, you see the Cowboys, they always kind of were finding ways to lose. The Giants could pull it out and find a way to win, and that was definitely not the story. But the real story, Romo was great. I mean, really on all levels. Low snap on that final play, picks it up, hits Witten on a strike. Place goes, absolutely bonkers. And New York's going crazy over the fact that Eli and Tom Coughlin pretty much shot themselves in the foot last night.
Mm-hmm. I watched the game. It was definitely a good game. It was a lot more exciting than it looked like it was going to be at one point. This is what you kind of expected when you sat down and watched an NFC East game anyway. But even more important, especially with the Cowboys, Dez Bryant with a broken bone in his foot, if I remember correctly. I know I've heard 4 to 6 weeks, and I've also heard the possibility up to 8 weeks. They paid him to be the franchise. They paid him a lot of money, and now that's a lot of money sitting on the sideline. I know it's not his fault, but I know that's going to be a big hit for this Dallas Cowboys. How bad do you think that this team is going to suffer without Dez Bryant until they get him back?
He's one of the very few players in the league that, regardless of what's going on in the game, he takes an immense amount of time just to prepare for, because he changes the game so much. He's not somebody that can cover one-on-one, so you have to figure out how you're going to handle him defensively and coverage-wise. And if he does touch the ball, he's hard to bring down. On top of all that, he's an emotional leader for the Cowboys offense. So it's a significant loss. Place him, we'll have Terrence Williams on the other side, who is obviously known as Bryant. He'll have to step up. Cole Beasley is an effective guy out of the slot. And then they also have Devin Street, a promising player who a lot of their front office staff had considered him to be very similar in possible production and possible output had he been given the same opportunity as Williams. So he will be thrown into the starting role. I've also heard that they're going to possibly bring somebody off the street, try to get a guy in there. I don't know. They have 2 guys on the practice squad, but I don't know if bringing a guy off the street is really what they'll do. They'll probably need special teams help, because with Devin Street getting more time and more offensive snaps, they're going to have to find a way to have those coverage units covered. But the two secret weapons I think the Cowboys will use, and you saw both of them last night have a big impact on the game. Lance Dunbar, the 3rd down back, they used him kind of like their version of Darren Sproles. And then Gavin Escobar, young tight end out of San Diego State, will also be used in the slot to kind of help with pure mismatch, because those 2 guys are very difficult to cover as well. And now that there's more opportunity, they will have a bigger chance to kind of change the dynamic of the game.
Definitely. It'll be, this is the Cowboy team I really thought had the NFC locked up with all the pieces they got. Yes, they lost DeMarco Murray. You can tell they lost DeMarco Murray. They fiddled around with 3 different backs last night. McFadden didn't really do that much, in my opinion. The other 2 backs, they held their own, but you can tell they're missing DeMarco.
They are.
Now without Dez Bryant, we'll see. This Eagle team, they got their issues. We all know Washington. They definitely have their issues, and the Giants, they played all but the last few minutes impressively against the Dallas Cowboy team. So the NFC East is definitely going to be a tight and interesting race at this point.
Yeah, most definitely. It always is, man. It always comes down to those last games, last game or two. Who's going to get in? Who's going to win the division? And it'll be no different this year. It's just kind of see what two teams will be there.
Another team that was interesting to me yesterday was the Denver Broncos, a team that was one of the most productive offenses out there. Peyton Manning, it seemed like every time he touched the ball, he threw a touchdown. They were fourth in the league last year in offensively in the yards, second in scoring just behind the Green Bay Packers. And they come out this week, and offensively they can't find the end zone. And I know that the Baltimore Ravens have always been known for their defense, but this is not your Ray Lewis defense. This is not your Ed Reed defense. This is not that defense that won their Super Bowl back in 2000 when they were the stinkiest defense in the NFL. Times have changed and those players are gone. Yes, it's still a decent defense, but this is not a defense that should have held Peyton Manning and that offense to no touchdowns. Was still able to be victorious, but no touchdowns. How did you take Peyton Manning's performance and the Denver Broncos? I know that all of us are figuring we're about in our last years of Peyton Manning, and depending on if you're a Denver Bronco fan or you're anybody else fan, you depends on what side you sit on the fence of whether or not that trade or them getting Denver Peyton Manning anyway was really worth everything that they potentially possibly gave up in the long run, especially if this season ends up being another bust and they do not win a Super Bowl. But what do you take from that? And I know this Thursday night they play Kansas City. Now I picked them to win. I can't see Peyton Manning going 2 weeks, having the week he had like he did this week. And I think week 2 they'll come out. This is an AFC West rival, and it's a little bit more personal because this has got a lot more of a playoff implications than them playing Baltimore, even though every game matters. But it's a little bit more personal. I just can't see them losing 2 weeks in a row. But how did you take this? Like, what was going through your mind when you saw the bottom stat line when this game was done and over with?
Well, Peyton Manning, he's been in the league since he was drafted in 1998 out of Tennessee, and this marked only what would be the third time in his whole career that his team had actually won without an offensive touchdown. Last year, looked like with the neck surgeries and all that his arm strength was diminishing, and his coach. I mean, it was admitted that his arm strength wasn't what it was, and he's getting older. I mean, those are the facts, but. All great players find a way as their ability decreases, as their speed, as their strength, as their power goes away in their older age. All the great players find a way to adjust, and Peyton Manning. That being said, the Broncos averaged the oldest offense in the league at 29 years old. And Peyton missed some throws, but he wasn't ducking the ball under, he wasn't throwing it at receiver's feet. He was actually overthrowing them. So I thought that was, come out and see Peyton Manning miss some throws, you think about the arm strength. Well, he overthrew almost every missed throw he had. The offensive line needs a lot of work. The Ravens, what they did defensively, I mean, I know you kind of highlighted it's not the Ravens' defensive old, but they're still a top-tier defensive front. Their front seven's real strong. They're well coached. They got to Manning 4 times, and any time, even when Manning was at his prime, if you could get pressure on him, he's going to struggle. Any quarterback's going to struggle when they're getting hit, and that's what really kept him out of the end zone. And then I think the Broncos added Evan Mathis, about 3.5 weeks ago. Mathis was released by the Eagles. He's a left guard, and he comes in and starts right away. Well, that's always a red flag. You're going to bring an offensive lineman off the street. Mathis has a nice resume, but he got beat up yesterday. He was consistently getting beat, and they've got issues up front. And in this league, you have to be able to get to the quarterback, and you have to be able to protect the quarterback. Those are the two most important things. And they couldn't do it on the offensive side of the ball. Their defense pulled them out, and luckily they could get a victory. But I'm interested to see what happens in KC next week too, because Kansas City, like Baltimore, has a very strong defensive front. Justin Houston just signed a big deal. He's going to be coming off the edge. Donatry Poe, maybe one of the most athletic free-technique defensive tackles in the game, is going to give all sorts of trouble to Mathis and those interior linemen. I'm on the other side, man. I think Kansas City wins, And I think Denver's going to be going a little crazy starting 0-2. I had predicted the Broncos actually would miss the playoffs this year. I think they're too old. And when you buy a team and you don't build through the draft, you're going to pay at the end of those contracts, and that's what they're seeing on that offensive line and what they're seeing really in Manning at his age, not being able to do what he used to be able to do.
Yeah, I can't fault you for saying that you don't think that they're going to make it. There's a good possibility they do not make the playoffs. But if I pick a team, it would probably be San Diego, with Phillip Rivers and his new contract extension and the addition of Melvin Gordon. I've seen a lot of excitement out of him over the weekend, and a lot of explosiveness. One touchdown was called back. So I can see it. That offensive line and Peyton Manning not being no younger, it's going to be a lot of issues for that Denver Bronco team. So.
It will, and the problem is that
unfortunately, I'm sure Kubiak's going to take a lot of the blame. Is going to get a lot of the blame because he happens to walk into a program that's really kind of ran its course at this point.
Yeah, no, most definitely. It'll be interesting to see how it plays out. But yeah, that's why they play the game. NFL.
Yep,
greatest league there is.
Two teams that started 0-1 that we didn't expect to start 0-1, and that's the Indianapolis Colts and the Seattle Seahawks. Really tales of two different games, as the Colts was really never into the Buffalo Bills game, and the Seattle Seahawks had their opportunity and couldn't. Once again, as I know the jokes just rolled in with the Seattle Seahawks, but essentially once again they couldn't get one simple yard, and cost them a Super Bowl, and now cost them a Week 1 victory. Also caused Twitter world to go crazy because Russell Wilson on Saturday said something about Go Hawks 1-0 or hashtag 1-0 or whatever, or something about 1-0 hashtag Go Hawks. And so, of course, St. Louis Rams fan base and players really took to that one after that loss. But Colts, Seahawks, I know T.Y. Hilton got hurt. He was one of my players on my fantasy league. Colts, I know a lot of people are sold on Andrew Luck, and there's no doubt in my mind in a couple of years he's going to be considered the top quarterback in the NFL because eventually we're not going to have Brady, we're not going to have Manning, we're not going to have Drew Brees, we're not going to have Aaron Rodgers. They're all going to be too old. Eventually Andrew Luck's going to be it. Me personally, I think he's a modern-day Drew Bledsoe. A lot of attempts. Therefore, he's going to have a lot of completions and a lot of yards, but also he's going to have a lot of interceptions. I don't see him ever leading the Colts to a Super Bowl, an actual Super Bowl ring. That's just my personal opinion, unless that team becomes really stacked with a lot of talented receivers that have a lot of yards after catch. That's my personal opinion. Seahawks, I think the Seahawks really start shooting themselves in the foot with all these ridiculous contracts. Eventually that's going to catch up with them. Obviously they're missing a few pieces now and had to get rid of a few pieces in order for the puzzle to fit because of the contracts. And I think it's only going to get worse. I think we're going to start seeing the demise and the less population of Seattle Seahawks and the 12th man because I don't think they're going to be relevant in the NFC West or the NFC period very soon because of the greediness of these players.
Yeah, success. I mean, ego-driven league. It's tough to maintain that success in the salary cap era. I mean, everybody's trying to get paid. Cam Chancellor, for example, he's on a holdout. He's one of their best players on defense. He's not around. He wants his share. They got to figure out a way to continue to handle that. The Russell Wilson's deal, Bobby Wagner's deal, all those guys. They're definitely going to take a cut in that talent level. That being said, they both started 0-1, but both teams were on the road against young, up-and-coming teams who are both really good on defense. I mean, the Rams can thank the Skins for the RG3 trade that gave them Aaron Donald and a couple other dynamic players, and the Bills have a ton of talent on defense, and they were at home in a rowdy atmosphere. The thing that worries me about the Colts, and you point out the Drew Bledsoe comparison to Luck, Luck can move a lot better than Bledsoe ever did. He's so much better. His legs are 20 times Bledsoe's, but it'll be interesting. They both number one picks, both guys that were on AFC teams that were in smaller markets. I mean, it's a good comparison. I think the Colts' biggest issue is going to be in the secondary. That you let Tyrod Taylor kind of have his way with you. And then offensive line, back to the offensive line. This is the third different topic we've been on, and it's come down to the offensive line. The Bills were getting to luck all day. Buffalo, I mean, they have the most talented defense in the league, I think, and accompany that with the atmosphere. It wasn't good. The Seahawks, I think they'll be fine this year. The Rams had a great game. I think they'll kind of figure it out. I don't think they're a Super Bowl contender without Cam Chancellor. So if they don't get that, they got to make a business decision there. What's crazy about that deal is Cam Chancellor has $7.3 million of guaranteed money on his contract. If anybody should be mad, or if he's going to be mad at anybody, he should be mad at his agent, because when you see Earl Thomas, the kind of money he's getting, it was just a bad deal. And unfortunately, the Seahawks aren't going to budge on it, and there's really no reason they should. But it'd be interesting to see how the Colts bounce back, how the Seahawks bounce back. But the Colts got to fix it on the offensive line, and the Seahawks really just got to get Cam Chancellor on the field, and they got to figure out what price do they really want to win.
Big matchup. First time I think ever, first game where number one pick, number two pick open up against each other. You had Marcus Mariota and you had Jameis Winston go face-to-face. I don't want to say I told you so, but I have never been sold on Winston at any point of his career. I think there's a lot of growing up to do, and I think an ACC schedule on top of a very light schedule outside of the ACC over his career made him look better to some than he really was. But then again, I'm not sold on Mariota as well. You had your opportunity. You had your chance to prove that you was truly a Heisman Trophy winner, and everything that the hype had built up about you in Oregon, and first time that the playoff system gives you an opportunity to prove yourself to the world that Oregon Ducks were supposed to be national champions, you couldn't finish it off. And so I have not been sold on either one of these quarterbacks. I don't see either one of them having a long, lustrous NFL career. That's just my opinion. It might be the hater in me, but I just don't see it. Neither one has proven anything to me to this point. Yes, Winston has got a national title, but his opponents in that year was 81-81. And I'm sorry, but Auburn was not the best SEC team. It took them two miracle plays to include that 108 or 109-yard field goal return against Alabama to get there. Yes, they got there, but they were not the best SEC team. And Mariota, the only thing he really accomplished, in my opinion, was win the Heisman Trophy, but that's kind of a popularity contest. Yes, you got to have stats, but, I mean, Pac-12 versus the Big Ten or the SEC, the numbers are going to be more – they're going to be higher. But with that being said, they both have their opportunities this weekend. Yes, the stats say two opposite kind of quarterbacks, as Mariota had a great game and Winston probably had a game he wished he could take back. But I don't want to, me personally, I don't look too far into Mariota's performance for, say, that Tampa Bay defense didn't look that great, and Tennessee's defense obviously helped Mariota's efforts with their defense and holding Winston and picking him off in the turnovers. So I know what the bottom stat line said, but I don't hold a lot of weight because the defenses have a lot to do with it, in my opinion. If I had to pick a winner of the two, obviously Mariota with his stats, but I want to see more out of these two before I pick who is the better quarterback out of the two. But like I said, I don't think either one of them is going to cut it in the NFL when it's said and done. What did you enjoy most about this game between these two quarterbacks? What do they got to work on, and what kind of future after one game? I know it's just one game in some preseason, but what kind of future do you see out of these two quarterbacks?
Yeah, I mean, you hit the nail on the head. It's the first game, two very different tales as far as the stat line goes. Mariota, 13 for 16, 4 TDs. Tennessee rolled over them. What I loved about Tennessee was their game plan. they took what Mariota did very well in college against the cover schemes that he did very well against in cover 2, which is what the Bucs run, and they used shorter intermediate passes and were able to have their way. Winston takes the field after Mariota hit Kendall Wright on what was really the ball traveled probably 8 yards in the air, and then Wright did the rest of the work himself, taking it 54 yards to the house. But Winston comes out, first pass, pick 6, going the other way. Actually, the first quarterback in his debut to throw a pick 6 since Brett Favre. So regardless of what went on, it's one game. No need to worry about Winston. No need to think Mariota's in the Hall of Fame. But I'll say the one thing I take away from Winston's performance is that he really, really needs to realize in the NFL when you play this game, when somebody looks open, they are not open. He needs to anticipate his throws much earlier. In college, you can get away with that because his arm strength's better. The recovery speed of the defensive backs aren't as good. But if they look open, they're not. You need to be throwing that ball when they're not open, and the ball needs to arrive as they're getting open. That's how tight those windows are. And he was nervous as the game went on. I mean, he was trying to do too much there at the end. Fourth quarter, Mariota's not even playing. One extra note to make, Winston has lost 2 games since his junior year of high school, and they're both to Marcus Mariota. And they put it to him. But like I said, I don't know as far as long-term, future goes for both of them. Winston, I still think, has a much higher upside. His arm strength, his mobility, his command of the huddle's better. Granted, I don't really know what he does when he goes home and he has trouble off the field, but Mariota, a product of his system, and it was a system they used, yesterday to have his effectiveness. So he could be a good quarterback, but I don't think he's anything to really get, So don't call him inducted the Hall of Fame.
One other topic we got to get into before we cut everything loose. Cardinals, impressive afternoon. They got Carson Palmer back. I think they started off the season 8-1 last year before they lost Carson Palmer, obviously a big part of their offense. Come back, he is having an impressive game. The Cardinals look impressive. It seems like they're hitting on all cylinders, and then Andre Ellington goes down with an injury. Chris Johnson is obviously going to have to step up. I have never been a fan of Chris Johnson. I think he had one season that blew up his popularity, but outside of that, I've never really been impressed with his work ethic, his attitude for the sport. I feel that he's one of the players that he feels that the sport owes him versus showing gratitude towards the sport and being a professional about it. But that's just my personal opinion on it. But how much of an impact is this going to be to this Cardinal team, as it seems that they got every other piece going for them, and it's going to be a very impactful team in the West, and can Chris Johnson step up into the role until Ellington returns?
Chris Johnson looked better than I thought he would. He didn't have a real impressive stat line down at 10 carries, 37 yards, but I don't think he's actually going to be the one that gets the majority of the work. Towards the end of the game, David Johnson, a rookie out of northern Iowa, took a screen pass about 57 yards down the sideline. Johnson just doesn't have the speed and the burst that he once did, and he's not that big. He's a cheaper, slower version of Ellington, and unfortunately, I just don't think he'll get the work. David Johnson, the rookie, my concern is that the only thing that's going to limit him in getting the carries is his ability to read the blitz pickups. So, me and Chris Johnson, I'm right there with you. I've never been a Chris Johnson fan. And I think they'll use him to spell Johnson and to also use him in passing situations where they're worried about pass protections being picked up. But I think David Johnson could really use this time as Ellington's off to prove what he's worth, and Ellington could possibly be out of the job when he comes back, because as much potential as Ellington's shown, he hasn't been able to stay on the field. He's been riddled since getting drafted out of college, with injuries, and they need stability at that situation. And it'll be interesting to see how it goes down if Johnson can handle the responsibility, because they have to protect Palmer. They saw that last year when Palmer went down, like you mentioned, their season's over. So I think that's why they brought Johnson in. If something happened to Ellington, they knew they couldn't rely completely on the rookie to pick up the pass protections. But as time goes on, after he learns, I think he'll be the featured guy as the season ends. And he's got a lot of talent coming out of a smaller school in northern Iowa. And he'll have an impact as long as he can handle the protection and keep Palmer clean in the pocket.
Most definitely agree. They definitely got to keep Palmer safe. That's kind of their lifeline. And who would ever thought Carson Palmer that gets cut by the Bengals? Well, Bengals did not want to get rid of. It was bound and determined they were going to make him retire, or he was going to play for them to go into Oakland. And we started to see Palmer come back around, but Oakland just didn't have the pieces, and he gets in Arizona, has found a home, and has been a very productive quarterback for the Cardinals. So glad to see that, and never would have thought after the whole Cincinnati thing that he would find a home and get back into a rhythm. So definitely glad for that, and we'll definitely see how this West. I mean, the 49er team is very uncertain. There's a lot of uncertainties with this 49er team with all the pieces that have come, gone, been arrested, and everything else. The Rams, every year, Jeff Fisher tries to make that team better, and it seems that they are on the brisk of being a contending team. And Seattle's, I think that the salary cap and the money is going to get the best of them at some point. And then you got Arizona, who it seems like every year they're just on the verge of being that threat and taking it all the way. But it always seems that something falls apart, or you have a San Antonio Holmes tiptoe catch to prevent them winning the Super Bowl. So it ain't been one thing; it's been another for that team. So definitely going to keep an eye on that West. Definitely want to thank you for coming on. I know we got a whole slew of things that we can get into tomorrow, as we just barely wiped the dust off of the action that happened this last weekend. So definitely looking forward to having you back on tomorrow at 10 o'clock to finish wrapping up week one, wrapping up what we see between Minnesota and the 49ers tonight. This looks like to be a close, tight-fitting game here. Is still 0-0 in the second quarter. So definitely going to be interesting as well. So look forward to having you tomorrow night, and we'll talk to you then.
All righty. Everybody have a good night. Thanks again, man.
Yes, sir. That was Patrick Taylor of Line Blowers. Glad to have him on. Man knows his NFL, and so glad to have the opportunity to have him on the show and bring his expertise. We tried running on Blog Talk and Spreaker tonight, and it seemed that once we got the guest on, it didn't work the greatest, so we had to cut that live feed out. So we're just going to put the recorded, downloaded version on there and let it play back. We just won't have live version of it until we figure out something else. The sound quality just wasn't good enough, and we don't want to put a subpar quality. I'd rather the Spreaker fan base hear the show at high quality on the replay than hear a horrible edition of it live. So we'll continue seeing what we can do. See if we can find a better way to bring the show live on both sides, and we're eventually going to get there. We're eventually going to be in the studio. Eventually, we're going to be 24/7. That's what the goal is eventually. So it'll happen. Make sure you check out the site, www.the110nation.com. Check out our blog site, www.the110nationsports.com. Like us on Facebook, my fan page, Mr. CJ Sports. The site side and the sports side of the house, 110 Nation Sports. The radio side and the guest side of the house, 110 Nation Sports Radio. I'm on Twitter at CJ Sports1, the 110 Nation at 110 Nation. Don't forget, tomorrow night we have a guest. That's we do. We got Chris Knight, a NASCAR reporter and PR for Sarah for a prime example, but he's a PR of some drivers. We got him on the show tomorrow night, and then we got Sarah Cornetching joining us on Wednesday night. She's coming back to the show. Looking forward to that as well. We already got Thursday's show posted as well for Racing with Big Sweat. He's got some great guests. Make sure you guys check that out as well. Tomorrow night, 9 o'clock, everything kicks back off. Until then, you guys have a great night.